we had a lot of challenges that came up this week. First of all, you have been a superhero for one of our clients.
Yes.
We'll dive deep into that next week because she has been struggling for a year, and we introduced her to you, and within a couple of weeks, you turned everything around for her. So we're going to deep dive into that situation next week. But in looking at the properties that she's been wanting to buy, we've come into quite a few issues with condo association approvals for FHA lending. So I want to kind of dive into that about, a lot of people don't know about the fact that condos have to be approved by the VA or by FHA, and does that affect conventional lending? Like, tell us a little bit about, like, in general with this, and we'll probably start picking your brain on the details of it.
Yeah, so just to give the history of that, condos versus townhouses or single family homes, right? It's different animals, so to say, because what's condo? You own a unit, you own the walls inside the unit, right? Everything else is owned by the association. And when you're getting the mortgage, no matter what type of mortgage you're getting, conventional, FHA, VA, we even have like outside the box, non-warrantable condo products. We look at certain guidelines for association to meet, because we want to make sure that this condo complex is being taken good care of, because it's actually, if it's a bad management, it affects the pricing, and it affects sellability, or there's no such a word, basically resale. What is the word? I don't know, I'm a foreigner. Cut this.
Yeah, it affects the resale value, right?
Resale value. Yes, thank you. So it affects all that. So that's why the complex has to meet the guidelines. The government programs like FHA or VA, for us to lend on condos like this, they have to be approved by HUD, Housing Urban Development, on FHA, or Veteran Affairs on VA. So for VA buyers, if the condo complex is approved, it's a great, news. Nothing else needs to be done. On FHA, it needs to be HUD approved, and we still need to get a condo questionnaire completed by the condo complex. And the questionnaire consists of 20 or so questions, asking how many units are rented out versus owner occupied, how many units are delinquent on the condo dues, how much money are allocated into the budget, how many units are owned by one person or one entity. So all that is very important for them to answer, and if any answers don't match the guidelines and criteria, the complex, the condo unit is not going to be approved for the financing. Conventional financing, Fannie also has the list of approved complexes. However, if it's not on approved list, it's not the end of the world. We all we need to do is to order the questionnaire. But if it's on do not lend list, then it's a different story. Then we have to go into that outside the box loan types, non-warrantable condo, and see if this condo would meet non-warrantable condo criteria, because those also have some limitations, not as strict as conventional, let's say, but still some limitations there.
Okay.
So those are you kind of cut up a little bit, but those are properties like condos, some of those in Arlington, right, where they have that land lease that's running less than 30 years, so that makes them tougher to finance. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, if it's on land lease, definitely, that's going to be a problematic because it has to be a fee simple, right? Yeah, so there are a few items that we're looking at when we ask the complex to, reply to us, and it's a questionnaire. On conventional financing, depending on the down payment, it could be a limited review questionnaire only with 7 questions, or it can be full-blown review with up to 20 questions, depending on the down payment. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're a listing agent and we go into a property and we're going to list a condo, and let's say that condo comes up and it is not FHA approved. When we put the listing into the multiple listing service, we have a section where we can list the acceptable financing options.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding from what you're saying is we would want to make sure that we do not include FHA in that. And there's really not a chance to have an FHA buyer come in there and get an exception to that. It's really difficult to be able to do that. Is that accurate, or would we want to go ahead and include the FHA in case there was an opportunity that they could get it approved if they went through the extra effort?
Also, we for example, prosperity, we can do we call it spot approval. If the whole complex is not FHA approved, but this person wants to get FHA loan and sellers are willing to wait for the approval because it could take some time. We have to get documentation, all necessary documentation from HOA, and we need to send it to HUD. So it could take even 60 days to get that done. But it is a possibility. However, I would recommend as a listing agent calling the condo association and asking them questions. Like on the questionnaire, why is your complex is not approved? And sometimes, you know, they were on approval, but then that approval expired, maybe, or maybe they are working on getting it approved, or maybe they don't really care, because getting it approved, you need to hire typically an attorney or some sort of third party to help you to get it on approved list. Maybe the condo complex just doesn't care too much about that. Or maybe there is really something that prevents them on getting approved, and they would know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's kind of what we came across this week when we were dealing with that. You know, we called and asked those questions and they knew. Okay.
Well, and that's another reason I think it's so important for buyers to get the pre-offer, the full approval, is because then you know exactly what type of loan they qualify for, so you can help them and their agent decide, like, not waste their times on condos that they won't be able to qualify for. I think that's huge, and you wouldn't know that if they had just done like a cursory pre-qualification, you know, just kind of said the things, and like you have to have the real approval, right?
Yeah, because like the one that we had the issue with, the FHA, that could have been approved if this was a conventional loan.
Is that right?
I'm assuming, correct?
For conventional, it's possible. Yeah.
So she was thinking, hey, I can, or our client or a client was thinking, hey, I can go get this property. I'm putting certain percentage down, you know, whether VA or, you know, they may be wasting time, get excited about a property and then find out they can't get it. So that's another good point. You're on a roll today.
I'm the winner so far with good points.
All right. Well, do you have any other questions or anything? I do. And this is from one of your good points. Kelly made a prediction. We were speaking to a client who bought a condo and is now the president of that condo association. And he was telling us that they lost their insurance because the wiring of all the buildings was the old wiring, the aluminum wiring. And they were having a hard time finding insurance. I was telling Kelly about it, and she was like, you know, I think we're going to find a lot of condos, especially after the whole Florida thing, when all those condo association rates went up after that collapse, that a lot of condos here may lose these qualifications because they won't be insurable because of I mean, are we starting to see that, or is it what are your thoughts on that?
Did my tarot cards guide me right?
Well, insurance is very important because we do look at that master policy insurance. If it has enough of coverage, if it has to have 100% coverage. So we do look at those things, and go to your point about Florida building that collapsed. After that, Fannie and Freddie, they actually made more strict guidelines on overall maintenance of the complex. So we have to look at that very closely now as well. If before it wasn't a big deal, now some complexes are not going to be approved for conventional financing because of deferred maintenance.
Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking is now that more of their insurances are expiring, or their approvals are expiring rather, then we're going to start seeing more that are not getting approved anymore. How long does once a condo is gets their approval, how long does that approval last?
On FHA, it's a good question. It actually shows on the HUD website when it expires. I believe it's at least 2-3 years. I don't know exactly. It might vary depending on situation.
Okay.
But yeah, so it does show the expiration on FHA. For conventional, there's really no expiration, but at any time it could come off the approved list if something comes up that does not meet the guidelines.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Very cool.
Whew.
Very informative.
Thank you.
And I would mention that, somebody who is watching right now thinking, why do we even care about all this deferred maintenance and budget and all? I think if you buy in a condo, you don't have too much control over what's going on outside of your unit, right? You actually have to be interested and advocate for that. You want to make sure that condo is in good standing, because if the budget, for example, if they don't put enough money into budget, you don't own decks or you don't own roof, right? And if decks are in bad shape and they need to be changed, the roof needs to be changed, and a complex does not put enough money into budget, they don't have enough money, what they're gonna do when they need to fix it, they're gonna put special assessment on you, meaning that if your condo fee is $300, they're gonna add another special assessment of $700 for another 5 years. So you have to cough up another $700 every month on top of $300 that you budgeted for. And with that, you might have hardship and you might not be able to make those payments, and then you want to get out of that condo, you're trying to sell it, but another person comes in saying, wait a second, there's $700 assessment for another 5 years, I don't want to buy your condo. You're forced to sell it for less or forgo it. So that's just not a good situation. That's why you buy in a condo, you want to make sure that it's in good standing.
Yeah, you do want to know all of that.
That's a fantastic example. There's a condo here in McLean, and I'm not going to mention the name of it, but that has a special assessment that has been going on for several years, and it basically doubled the condo fees. And you can get a nice 2-bedroom condo there for the price of like a 1-bedroom small studio in Alexandria or Arlington. And these are nice condos, but the prices have been suppressed because of that extra condo fee. And they're getting to the point where that special assessment is going to be going away. And I think they've resolved the budget issue. So it's actually an opportunity in that complex, because right now prices are suppressed. You get in there and get that condo, then that special assessment goes off and those prices start going up because now it's a normal condo. You got a nice appreciation. But these people that have been in there for the last 5 years have been suffering because they can't get a sales price on the property.
Yeah. And that's a good point. And I'll tell you that the condo, the budget, those are long documents. They are no fun to look at. That's why you want this lovely Tatiana in your corner, because in her underwriting team, they're going to be looking at all those numbers for you.
And our brokers actually tell us not to look at them. So we have to look at it from the perspective of
like investment and stuff like that.
Violations and stuff. But as far as like the actual budgeting,
they're like, you're not qualified.
We can't advise on if the budget's a good budget or not, because if there's an issue there, then
that's not our area.
But buyers still should definitely read all those documents themselves and see what's in there. 100%. It's a lot of pages, probably like 300 or so, right? But you know, you have to do what you have to do, because you miss something, that's gonna be on you.
You gotta know. You gotta know. That's true. All right.
Well, thank you. Very informative this week. as opposed to all the other weeks.
Thank you. I'm sorry about the
Audio.
technological.
Yeah, I hope this comes out okay, because I think this is a really important type of topic. So I
Yeah.
hope the audio.
It was good. I can hear you well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we hear you too.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right. We'll see you next week. And when we talk.